Red hot real estate market, right? If you're a seller, you couldn't be happier. I had 3 phone calls today from 3 different agents calling to tell me that the property that they have under contract didn't appraise. And what should they do? And this is what I told them. Let's start at the beginning. You're a seller that wants to sell your property, so you contact your favorite listing agent, and you say, and they come over with their market analysis of the property that includes comparable sales to your home within a reasonable amount of distance in the same neighborhood and blah blah blah, the same bedrooms, bathrooms. You're looking at sales of properties that happened up to 6 months ago, and regardless of if, I'm sure you're paying attention to what's going on in the media, property is appraising. I think the national average right now is over 13%. Plain Dealer a couple of months ago came out with a breakdown of municipalities and neighborhoods. I remember off the top of my head that Maple Heights went up over 23% the last 12 months. City of Cleveland went up over 19% over the last 12 months. So regardless of where you're located, and of course the condition of your property, your value has appreciated over the last 12 months, and there is not a lot of inventory. And probably as a result of the pandemic, probably as a result of God knows what. But most importantly is there's not a lot of inventory on the market, so that anything that hits the market gets shown multiple times immediately, and so on and so forth. So you as the seller are sitting down with your agent looking at comps, and say, let's just use arbitrary numbers right now. So say the comps show that your house should sell between 180 and 185. And because they're already older and the market continues to appreciate, you are going to list your property for $200,000. And you put it on the market, and you go through what every seller is going through right now that's reasonably priced, where you're getting dozens and dozens of showings within the first couple of weeks of listing the property. And within that same time period, you're getting multiple offers, 10, 12, 15 offers for you to review. And as the seller, you're thinking, this is great. I've already listed my property higher than the comps show that I should, because the market is so hot. And the buyers that are going through your property are also feeling frustrated, because every time they come, they're ready to write an offer on a property. They know they have to write either at or above list price in order to get it. And there's always somebody that's going to go, you know what, 200,000, I'm going to offer you 220. And you as the seller are thinking, this is great. I've just made an extra $20,000 and I've sold the house in 7 days, and this is fabulous, and blah, 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 blah. So you write it up, you put it under contract, the property is now contingent, or at least contingent if not pending, and it's not being shown anymore because it's under contract. And the buyer's going to go make a loan application per the terms of the purchase agreement, and usually they're also going to do a private home inspection or some kind of inspection of the property, because they only saw it once before they had to write a contract right away, so they'd be part of this bidding war. So they have the contracts accepted, so buyer goes and makes formal loan application. Now that's going to cost them a certain amount of money, because they have to pay for the appraisal and they have to pay for any kind of loan preparation talks. So that's going to, $350, $450, whatever the application fee is going to be. That's money that's being paid for processing the loan. They're also going to pay for the private home inspection, which starts at about $450, and it can go up to $600, depending on how complicated of an inspection they want to do. But so let's just say, just to buy the house, the buyer's already into it for $1,000. And in this particular scenario, let's say that the inspection happened and everything was fine, that contingency is removed, and the process is going forward. In the meantime, back in the lender process, you've made formal loan application, and the lender has called for ordering the appraisal. Now, the lender themselves does not hire the appraiser. As a result of the shenanigans that happened 15 years ago, now there is a separate assignment company that assigns the appraiser to your property, to that property to be appraised. The lender shall not talk to the appraiser, and vice versa. So, appraiser goes in. The appraiser is pulling comps that are similar to yours that are also 6 months old. Your listed at 10%, 20%, 10% higher than what your property would have sold for 6 months ago, and the buyer is willing to put another 10% on it so that they can buy it for themselves. The appraisal comes in at 195. Contract price is 200. Everybody stands around going, okay, what should we do now? Now, first of all, in most purchase agreements, the financing paragraph has stipulations that's saying, despite buyer's good faith efforts, if they can't procure financing, then this contract is null and void. If it doesn't outright cancel the contract, it makes some kind of qualification so that the two parties can either renegotiate or something of that nature in order to keep the deal together, in order for the contract to close. But regardless of that, the lender is only going to lend you on a $1.95. So, what are your options? Can you contest the appraisal? This is the first question. So, appraisers have licenses just like realtors do, and it's controlled by the Division of Real Estate as part of the Department of Commerce. So, I called Columbus, and I talked to somebody in the appraisal department, and I go, can I contest an appraisal? And they said, sure you can. Let me send you the form. I'll email it to you right away. I go, well, that's great. Okay. What's the average time frame for this to get resolved? 6 to 9 months, I was told. So, what good does that do? Either whoever you're representing in the transaction, or if you're the seller or the buyer. Nah, nothing. So, the only options are to, unless you guys come to an agreement, the contract's dead. Seller's pissed because he's out 21, 30 days off the market. Buyer's pissed because he just spent $1,000 plus to try and buy this house, and now that's just gone. So what can you do about it? Some people will go forward with to contest the appraisal, especially if it's something crazy. And net bottom line is, some of the appraisals that I've seen over the last 2-3 months are crazy and should be contested, because that person shouldn't be an appraiser. But what you can do right now in the contract that you're dealing with, that the property didn't appraise, in this scenario, the buyer would have to come to closing with an additional $25,000. Now, who has an additional $25,000 laying around that they can just grab? I mean, is it possible? Yeah. Is it 100% guaranteed? No. You can renegotiate the price to reduce the price, maybe come to a halfway point, something of that nature. Always double check with the lender to make sure that doesn't affect the loan, because the structure of the loan, as far as down payment percentages and so on and so forth, affects the loans and so on and so forth. So that's something to discuss as well. But needless to say, regarding of the type of loan that the buyer is using, whether it's VA, FHA, or conventional, if the property doesn't appraise, it's got to be worked out somehow between the two principals. Or worst case scenario is the buyer's out $1,000 and the property's back on the market, and the seller has to explain that through no fault of their own, the property's been relisted. And that does carry a little bit of a stigma, at least in this market it does a little bit. Not a lot, but it does. So what can you do about it to avoid this situation? I've seen two different strategies. One is buyer initiated and the other is seller initiated, but the net bottom line is the same result. The buyer can remove the financing contingency from the contract, meaning that come hell or high water, regardless of what the appraisal is, regardless of whatever type of financing they're getting, they're going to give you $220,000 in our example. Or the seller can add a clause to the purchase agreement, and our attorneys have advised us that something to the effect where all parties acknowledge that should the property not appraise for the purchase price, the buyer shall bring additional funds to closing. And it might be even a good idea, if you're the seller in that situation, to verify the buyer funds before you go forward, and because you're already into the contract for 30 days. So something's got to get worked out, or you're going back on the market. So is What do you do when the house doesn't appraise? You work it out. I wish I had a better answer. I hope that helped. Good luck out there.